History is full of mysterious deaths. Some of them are deemed suicides, but have enough puzzling details to leave lingering doubts. It is possible, even likely, that the people in the video today did kill themselves, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that they did fall victim to foul play. Number 10. Meriwether Lewis. Meriwether Lewis became famous 200 years ago when he led the Corps of Discovery mission commissioned by President Thomas Jefferson alongside William Clark. Jefferson then appointed him governor of Upper Louisiana in 1806. Lewis died of an apparent suicide in 1809. Lewis was passing through Natchez Trace. He had stopped at a lodging called Grinder's Stand and spent the night in a cabin. He was found dead from gunshot wounds which appeared to be self-inflicted. There were plenty of contemporaries and historians who had no problem with the suicide verdict. Lewis was depressed, he struggled with alcoholism, he had financial troubles, and reportedly had tried to take his own life before. He also made plans in the event of his death prior to his journey and wrote a will on the road. Lewis's family was not as satisfied with the story. His mother believed he was murdered, and so did many of his descendants. There is still an ongoing effort to this day to have his body exhumed, but it has proven difficult since Lewis's gravesite is in the National Monument. If the explorer was indeed murdered, the most likely culprits were bandits prowling the Natchez Trace. There have also been some more outlandish hypotheses claiming that Lewis was the victim of an assassination plot or that he was caught by the innkeeper sleeping with his wife. Number 9. George Reeves. George Reeves was an actor best known for portraying the original Superman in a 1950s TV show. In 1955, during a party at his home in Benedict Canyon, he went upstairs and shot himself in the head. That's the official story, at least. 60 years later, the death of Superman, it remains a controversial issue. If someone else killed George Reeves, it was likely due to his tumultuous love life. He had been in a long-term relationship with an older woman named Toni Mannix. A struggling actor for most of his Hollywood career, Toni bought almost everything for him, including the house where he died. At the same time, Toni was also the wife of Eddie Mannix, an executive at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer with a reputation as a fixer who protected the studio's stars from scandal. He was recently played by Josh Brolin in the movie Hail Caesar. In 1959, Reeves dumped Toni Mannix in favor of a nightclub girl with an explosive temper called Leonore Lemon. She was also there the day that Reeves died. All three of these people could have killed Reeves. Leonore could have shot him herself, while the Mannixes had the resources and alleged mob ties to have him murdered. The whole story was presented, but also fictionalized in the movie Hollywoodland. Number 8. Bobby Fuller. In early 1966, musician Bobby Fuller scored the biggest hit of his career when his group, the Bobby Fuller 4, released a cover of I Fought the Law. A few months later, he was dead. The 23-year-old was found in his mother's Oldsmobile clutching a plastic hose which led to a gasoline line. The police quickly closed the case as a suicide by asphyxiation, but there were plenty of suspicious details which led to tales of murder. There were mentions that Fuller's body was bruised and bloody, suggesting that he had been beaten or dragged. There was also advanced rigor mortis inconsistent with the fact that his car had only been parked for 30 minutes before Fuller's mother found his body. The official autopsy report notes the presence of hemorrhages likely caused by gas vapors in the summer heat, but makes no mention of blood, cuts, or bruises. Officers on the scene didn't seem interested in an investigation, as they didn't even dust for fingerprints or interview any witnesses. Multiple wild stories appeared after Fuller's death. Maybe he died at a party after taking LSD and the owner didn't want any trouble with the cops, so he staged the suicide. Another version claimed that Bobby was killed after sleeping with the girlfriend of a powerful nightclub owner with mob connections. One theory implicated his manager, Bob Keane. Another implicated Morris Levy, the founder of Roulette Records. The most outlandish story claimed that Fuller was taken out by the Manson family. Number 7. The Mad King Ludwig II. Ludwig II reigned as King of Bavaria during the second half of the 19th century. He became known as the Fairy Tale King for his love of lavish construction projects, chief among them Neuschwanstein Castle. In 1886, his body was found floating in Lake Starnberg alongside the corpse of his physician. Ludwig spent obscene amounts of money on his palaces, and he was heavily in debt. In 1886, he was dethroned after a team of medical experts led by psychiatrist Bernhard van Gooden declared him insane. Ludwig was transported to Berg Castle and placed in Gooden's care, but a day later they were both found dead after going out for a walk together. Could Ludwig have killed Gudden as revenge for turning him into the Mad King and then drowned himself? Well, it is possible, although the king's autopsy reported that there was no water in his lungs. Alternative theories suggest that it was all part of a coup orchestrated by either the government or by Ludwig's uncle Luitpold, who became regent and de facto ruler of Bavaria. There is some anecdotal evidence that Ludwig was shot. Allegedly, Countess Josephine von Wrubber-Kaunitz obtained the king's coat, which had 2 bullet holes in it, and occasionally showed it off to dinner guests. There were also mentions of fishermen who were on the lake that night that had heard gunshots. Lastly, a modern medical review of Gudden's insanity diagnosis was found to be incorrect in form and substance, suggesting that the psychiatrist was in on it and was later silenced as a witness. Number 6. Jan Masaryk. The coup known as Victoria's February occurred between February 21st and the 25th of 1948 in Czechoslovakia. With Soviet backing, the country's Communist Party assumed control of the government. Only one pro-Western politician remained in a prominent position, and that was the foreign minister, Jan Masaryk. A few weeks later, he was dead after a fall out of the window of the Chernin Palace. The government quickly ruled Masaryk's death a suicide. At his funeral, new communist leader Klement Gottwald blamed the diplomat's demise on Western powers, which he labeled foreign enemies. Unsurprisingly, many people were unsatisfied with that verdict and believed that Masaryk was assassinated either by the Soviets or by his own countrymen. It wasn't until decades later, when the communist grip loosened on Czechoslovakia, that newer inquiries were made into the minister's death. One forensic expert did indeed conclude that Masaryk was pushed out of the window. Curiously, his family and many close friends always believed that he committed suicide and labeled his assassination at the hands of the Soviet agents an indisputable Cold War cliché. Number 5. Pierre-Charles Villeneuve. Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson is regarded as one of the greatest heroes in British history, particularly for his triumphant victory at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. On the other side of the coin, Pierre-Charles Villeneuve was the naval officer in charge of the French and Spanish forces who suffered a catastrophic defeat at the same battle. He committed suicide in a hotel in Rennes a few months later, but some historians have argued that he could have been assassinated on the orders of Napoleon. Villeneuve acted rashly and took on Nelson's fleet unprepared after finding out that the French emperor was planning to replace him with another commander named Rosely. He not only lost 2/3 of the ships in his command, but also foiled Napoleon's planned invasion of Britain. It's understandable why some people might feel that the emperor wasn't too pleased with his admiral. Besides motive, it was the nature of Villeneuve's death that attracted suspicion. People who commit suicide rarely stab themselves 6 times in the chest. Even so, no concrete evidence has ever been found to suggest murder. Number 4. Vincent van Gogh. The mental struggles of Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh are almost as well known as his paintings. Famously, he severed part of his left ear during an argument with fellow artist Paul Gauguin, and he also suffered from multiple psychotic episodes and bouts of depression throughout his life. Van Gogh came to represent the stereotypical tortured artist, so it wasn't really a surprise when he committed suicide. However, in recent years, some people have claimed that the painter did not kill himself. The alternative scenario came courtesy of Pulitzer Prize-winning biographers Stephen Neiffer and Gregory White Smith. According to the official version, Van Gogh shot himself with a revolver in a field, returning to his lodgings and dying after 2 agonizing days. However, the authors claim that the artist was not the one who pulled the trigger, but rather it was a group of boys who mocked and played pranks on the bizarre painter. They even put forward René Secretan as the likely culprit. Decades later, Secretan admitted to bullying Van Gogh in his younger days, and he had the revolver, which he used to emulate his hero, Wild Bill Cody. The biggest support for the hypothesis came from forensic expert Dr. Vincent de Mayo. Based on the notes of Van Gogh's physician, Dr. de Mayo ascertained that the muzzle was around 2 feet away from him when the gun was fired. Therefore, it was highly likely that Van Gogh did not shoot himself. Number 3. Philip Taylor Kramer. Philip Taylor Kramer is best remembered for his stint as the bassist for American rock band Iron Butterfly. In 1995, he seemingly vanished off the face of the earth. His remains were found 4 years later in Decker Canyon near Malibu. Police ruled his death probably suicide, but there were signs that pointed to foul play. Following his rock star days, Kramer became a successful computer scientist and did top-secret work on rocket guidance systems for the U.S. Department of Defense. In the 1990s, he started his own software business. On the day of his disappearance, Kramer was supposed to meet an investor at Los Angeles International Airport. He went there, spent 45 minutes at the airport, and left alone. During that time, he made 17 phone calls, including to his wife and former band member Ron Bushy. His last call, it was to 911. Kramer said that he was going to kill himself and that O.J. Simpson was innocent because they did it. This was the last thing that anyone ever heard from him. Philip's father, Ray Kramer, was the first to dismiss the idea of suicide. He revealed that people were interested in the work his son was doing with computers and even made threats. According to Ray, calling 911 and saying that he was going to kill himself was code that indicated that other people were controlling Philip. A congressman urged the FBI to investigate Kramer's disappearance as a foreign abduction, perhaps in connection with the work he did for the DoD. No evidence was ever found to support these claims. Number 2. Marilyn Monroe. One of Hollywood's biggest sex symbols and the archetype blonde bombshell, Marilyn Monroe's death was almost as fascinating as her life. She died in her home in 1962 of a barbiturate overdose. Officially, Marilyn committed suicide, but many conspiracy theories seem to suggest otherwise. There was a notion that Monroe overdosed accidentally. However, given that her body contained dosages several times that over the lethal limit, the idea was dismissed. More intriguing were the various claims that the actress had been assassinated. Most conspiracy theories have to do with Marilyn's ties to the Kennedys. Some say that the powerful political family ordered Monroe's death in order to shut her up because she simply knew too much. Other people claim that a third party like the CIA or mob boss Sam Giancana had the actress killed in order to hurt the Kennedys. One conjecture suggests Bobby Kennedy was involved in a plot to induce Marilyn's suicide. It even has an FBI file which recently came to light, although it cannot be authenticated. It indicates a conspiracy orchestrated by Kennedy's brother-in-law, actor Peter Lawford, which also included Marilyn's psychiatrist and housekeeper. Together, they encouraged the actress to fake a suicide attempt, as she had done in the past, except this time they were there to ensure that it succeeded. Number 1. The Isdal Woman. Unsolved for over 50 years, the Isdal Woman remains one of the most perplexing mysteries in the modern history of Norway. In November 1970, hikers found the severely burned body of an unidentified woman in the Isdalen Valley in Bergen. An autopsy later revealed that she had swallowed over 50 sleeping pills shortly before her death, so police tentatively ruled it a suicide. However, many aspects of the case point to foul play and have even given rise to tales of international espionage. The first clue was the fire. Cause of death was a combination of barbiturate overdose and carbon monoxide poisoning. If you want to commit suicide and already have taken dozens of pills, why would you set yourself on fire? Another clue was the extreme length that someone went to conceal the woman's identity. All the items she had with her had labels, names, and other identifiers removed. A few days later, police found 2 suitcases at the Bergen railway station which belonged to the woman, as one of them had a fingerprint on it. All the items inside also had names and labels removed, although investigators did find money from 5 different countries. They also found a mysterious coded note. It was decoded later and revealed that the victim had traveled throughout Europe using at least 7 different aliases. These discoveries led to rumors that the Isdal woman was a murdered spy. 5 decades later, her identity remains a mystery, although a recent breakthrough came from a forensic analysis of her teeth. It suggested that she was born in France and grew up along the French-German border. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up below. Don't forget to subscribe. Brand new videos just like this every day of the week. And if you're looking for something else to watch right now, why not check out my other channel called Today I Found Out? You'll find a link to that in the description below. And as always, thank you for watching.